streams. Come on, pick it up. Pick it up. Offline. No, there it goes. It's going. All right. You should be sending data. I'm hoping it's going to the same stream slot. On a better word. Come on, camera, focus, you fucking thing. All right. So that is that fixed. So now I need to make a new Zoom, and I will get Nick on the blower. Now it doesn't work for him. All right, it doesn't matter. He can watch. Copy invite link. All right, do that, and then I don't know if the chat is gonna work or not. Let me close it a second. Docs chat. See if that hooks back in. Come on, focus. Just you devil, you. All right, is that working? Now we back on. Can I do that? Yeah, is the stream still running on Twitter? Live. Yes. All right. It says started 2 minutes ago, so we might have just lost everything and everyone. So, all right. YouTube looks good. Okay. Did I send Nick the new Zoom meeting? Where'd that go? Zoom here. And so I'll just sort of update people whilst I'm waiting for Nick to join. So the lady who we were hoping to get the blood sample from HIVAX with suspected multi-system atrophy just wasn't well enough to go to the clinic. So we're waiting on that. And so in the meantime, I've been resting, looking at my own blood, which is a shocking mess. And I could get it treated right now, but I want to wait for our ability to do cytokine panels. And I want to be able to test my own cytokine panels in my own lab, and that way I can get a constant baseline. So just went offline on YouTube. Everything says it's good my end and is streaming, so I'm hoping that just the brief time that it was off, it sort of picks up the oh wait, I'm pasting the links into it would help if I sent the link to the right thing. I'm posting them into just Discord. Retard. All right. Dear Lord, can't all interconnected tubes just get along in harmony? Would be nice, but nature being red in both tooth and claw is it's gonna be unlikely. So okay, I have Nick and there. So my deepest apologies, Nick, for the bumpy start, but I think we're in we're in the groove. 5x5 as the Butch Bulldyke says in Aliens, as they drop from the ship into the into the into the alien nest. But the other one, yeah, the one that gets killed early on, right? As she sort of, yeah, yeah. Game over, man. It's how I'm feeling sometimes, dude. I am. I was just saying. I don't know if you heard or was listening whilst I was spamming the wrong channel with the Zoom call. So if we get interruptions from people wanting to spoof, yeah, block the call. Yeah. I was just saying that I've been testing my blood under the microscope, and mine is bad, and it's so. This gives us some insight, actually. Just before we get into the main topic of the stream. So, um, the treatments that I've had, like the last one, the last serious one I had was over 3 months ago, and now my blood looks filled with amyloids, and I should just show people, right? This is what you end up with, right? I'm not protected in any way, and this is taken fresh this morning, and the reason I did it is just I was. Oh, yeah. So yeah, yeah, I would do that because it's either camera on OBS or Zoom, and yes, yeah, all that stuff will work. So I can share with you. Um, oh, and of course, I reset the PC, so that software isn't running. But yeah, it's probably it's a bit of a tangent, but taking a look at the results from my blood this morning just is there to it helps emphasize that there is an ongoing problem. Now, maybe we have a way to, I want to say, ameliorate it. Maybe I don't. We don't know if we can stop it. And all I've been doing is stem cells, and so with stem cells, I always take it that you always need to be doing it. That's regenerative medicine. It's not a one-off, right? It's every month or so you go for a little top up. But um, saying they can't hear your audio, I hear it. Try
Okay.
now. Give me a sound check.
Test 1 2 3. Test 1 2 3.
Yeah, I think
Uh,
that will have fixed it. We'll get some
okay.
feedback, right? The
All
one,
right. Give us a thumbs up, please, or a thumbs down.
and then I wanted to share. Share. Well, I did that, and then it's not picking up the software. Why? Didn't I run it? And this well, anyway. So I know I saw Lindsay in the chat, and sweetheart, I'm determined that we get you to Japan, and we get you treated, right? Because although my blood looks terrible right now, I could of course, go and get it fixed. And but I'm waiting for and the camera's broken. Oh, it's one thing after another. All right, let's have
If you have a desk lamp and you turn off, your background light, it'll stay focused on you. But you've got it on dynamic focus, and it keeps shifting back and forth.
Yeah, that I know, but it's probably a good thing. Don't want blur me out a little bit. Don't want to be too offensive to people on their evening meal. It's pixelate me out. All right, so I wanted to look at blood, and yeah, so now hopefully now Zoom will pick up the software that's running. Yes, it is. All right, so share. Right, so that's you being able to see that screen, right? And then if I do this, and then I do this, then other people can see the screen as well. And so this is my blood, like fresh
Right.
from this morning, right?
Mm-hmm.
And those green blobs is a very, very high count of microclotting. Now it's somewhat more concentrated because everything was still wet. I didn't do a dry sample, it was wet blood, and so there's some, as the liquid moves, kind of rolls to one side of the slide.
Mm-hmm.
But these are the signatures of high amyloid load in the blood. And if we go over to this one, and it has a very bright background fluorescence and indicative of sort of inflammatory states, but yeah,
For those that are first seeing this, would you describe, please, the technique, meaning the microscopy platform that you're using, and if you are using any stains or dyes to help? And this is a dark field microscopy, right?
it's UV microscopy,
It's UV.
so it's done
Thank you.
done under UV light, and if I see that in a patient who sent me their sample, my immediate response is you need to seek out a medical professional and find a therapy. Now, and this is it's not that I'm asymptomatic. I didn't stream yesterday. I didn't do anything except lay in bed because I had chest pains, right? And
Oh, shit.
yeah,
Okay.
and I'm like, since my trip to the hospital after the last bout of SARS, which gave me pulmonary embolisms, I'm a little bit more cautious now when I feel some twinge, right?
Sure.
and so, but I was rested in bed for all 24 hours, I suppose. Felt better, and I was like, I'll come down to the lab. I'll test my blood. I've got another Lauren. Your sample has arrived. I'll take a look at it soon. But why show this? Because it's important that, one, we understand there's an ongoing problem, and I don't consider myself in any way in the severely incapacitated range, right? But there's enough signal in myself to, well, I say, in the am I severely incapacitated? 24 hours in bed because I'm scared of cardiovascular event of some form. Yeah, I should be right, but so there's an ongoing problem. Two, how to find the where to go to for information that's reliable, and three, how do you what to do when you're unsure of the veracity of that information. And so in this instance, looking just at my blood, right? What I'm confident doing is looking at data where I can manipulate it and look at it with my. Let me manipulate it in like false, but like I can handle it, right? And I can move it around, and I can, look at it from different angles and what have you. And I'm far more comfortable with that type of data than the, what should we say? Let's just say broad epidemiological data where it's too easy to hide
Mm-hmm.
information, which I
Mm-hmm.
think we'll touch on somewhat. It will come into the topic of discussion today, and um, this. So we're in this world where we have to still navigate and get to a point where we can say with some degree of confidence, we recognize the pathology, we recognize who are the honest brokers with respect to talking about the condition. And we're going to talk about not just COVID, but HIV in this particular instance today. But this very obvious pathology is still contentious even after 5 years. And it's taken me 5 years and just being very lucky in the last few months to come across a technique where I think we can make a dent in the impact that's been done to the population at large. And in that respect, what I would, well, I think it's incumbent upon those of us who can to help those who are in trouble. So I'll take this moment to say that what we should do, because I'm confident in that therapy, that we should be doing everything that we can to get Lindsay to Japan and treated fully, and not just a quick in and out treatment, but extended treatment to make sure that my confidence in the therapy is reinforced, and by proxy, we ameliorate what I think is the underlying, or perhaps one of the most critical pathologies that we can at least address in someone like Lindsay. And we know, unfortunately, that Lindsay's blood is messy in this instance. And oh, it's Charles in the chat. Yeah, I did ask Charles to be in on this conversation. I'm going to do a part two because it rolls over with the Ebola scandals as well. So, um, so yeah, I think I'm sort of done with sort of the introduction, and I would say I would just make this plea: someone, please, who's familiar with how that kind of stuff works with Give Send Go or whatever, GoFundMe, please let's get something set up for Lindsay let's get her here. And because she has in-depth clinical documentation going back 3 years, 4 years, well, 3 to 4, I want to say 3. And if the therapy is of any use at all, it should have an impact on Lindsay. Okay. And so um, let's get that give, send, go set up, or whatever it is that people use. And yes, let's get Lindsay here. I hope she's still in the chat, but that's what I want to do. And just for my, I'm sure testing on myself and on the results that I've already seen, is already a good set of data points. But she would be the how should we say? Like you want to test against the hardest problems, right? It's too easy. It's too easy in this field to just get a easy, I don't want to say easy. That's the wrong way, right? But just people perhaps who are not as severely afflicted and show some change, and then people will sort of launch off that and think that they've got the next super therapy. One that really bugs me is the augmented NAC scam. Right? I've had quite a few people send me, I want to say it's at least, it's 4 or 5. 5, I'm going to say, I've got of people who were convinced that their taking of augmented NAC would leave their blood spick and span, and that was not the case. So let's see. She has a volunteer that speaks Japanese and has family. Oh yeah. I know the volunteer who she's talking about. The name escapes me at the moment, but yeah. Anything to get Lindsay here, and given therapies that right now I am as certain as can be that it works to remove that type of pathology which is on the screen. And that's my own say cross to bear, my own burden, right? But yeah, I would I'd forgo my spot in the queue just to get Lindsay in there to see those test results. And with the ability to test cytokines as well, sort of being finalized, and it's basically on its way to the lab right now, then I really think we have a good chance to not only help someone who we all know is, well, she's been battered from pillar to post at the moment, and perhaps we can do something to reverse that. So I don't know. Someone in the background, someone in those chat groups, figure out how to do those give send goes, and I will make sure that she's positioned to get the treatment as quickly as possible, and for as long as possible, for as long as we can afford it, in this instance. So
you're making me wonder about academic opportunities, including Federal Health Science of Japan. Are there any studies or grants? And I know you've got plenty on your plate. You haven't necessarily been combing for that, but would we benefit by looking to see if there's some kind of a scholarship or stipend or some component of cost support that could be given by her enrolling and participating in a larger study.
So
And if you
I do
go
want
ahead.
to pursue grants.
Mhm.
I'm looking at that right now with dread at NIH, but perhaps there's been a sea change at NIH that they would be interested in looking at this type of proposal. But in Japan, it's limited, I'm afraid. They and any grants that they give out in Japan tend to be on the smaller side. But it's I'll certainly. Well, the thing is, like, even doing it through a hospital like Edagawa, in Japan, it's just they're really formal. It has to be like university. It has to be recognized research institute. But um, but we can get Lindsay treated without having to go cap in hand to NIH.
Mhm.
And this I'm sure. The cost of the treatment is not so great that you go for one stem cell treatment and that's like $30,000, whereas we can give the equivalent of like five high high dose stem cell infusions in a week for well I want to be careful about saying costs right now because we're still unsure of like sort of final figures. So, but to me, just this figure could be subject to change, right? But I think if you're thinking of coming to Japan to get the double filtration plasma apheresis and stem cell infusions, lots of it, you should be looking at around $10,000 for the treatment and tests that go with it, give or take.
And 10 for travel and incidentals.
Yeah, yeah. To be safe, we should be looking to raise 20 for Lindsay, 25, and I'm of the opinion that the more she's able to go through the process, and I get it that it's invasive to some degree because it's apheresis, but you got to get in there and get those clots out. And look, man, there's it's fresh on the microscope slide from how I look right now, and I'm I have no doubt Lindsay's blood is of similar quality, but um, anyway, let's move on from this. We should talk more about Lindsay at a later date. Just think about how to formalize it, and really, until the cytokine panel hardware is installed in the lab, there's I want to be able to like this type of data that can be put together into a publication. We have the preclinical benchworks work done, which shows that the
Mhm.
stem cells stop the amyloid cascade, right?
Mhm.
And it's the only thing I've seen work. Everything else is just meh. It doesn't give consistent signals. You want consistent signals?
Right.
Stem cell growth factors. Why it works, I don't know, but It seems to, um, and so that. So here's what I think happens: the the stem cell growth factors inhibit the inflammatory cytokine side of the equation. Now, does it does it stop or can it reduce the microclots like you see on the screen? Not so much. I think that requires literal physical filtration. I don't think there's nothing I've seen that breaks them down, and there's no way I think that you could get anything in there at physiological concentration to break those clots down. They're just floating around, looking to stick together, aggregate more, and cause more of them. So, yeah, it's a two-pronged approach that you need, and you don't need to spend ridiculous amounts on augmented NAC. Right? Save you money for a plane ticket and a couple of weeks at Edogawa Hospital, and you'll come out the other side with that pathology cleared up. Now, how long that lasts, we don't know yet. Still research, still a investigational treatment, but the fact that we can get rid of it and normalize cytokines is a huge step forward, I think. But that's me. That's me just blowing my own trumpet. Anyway, so the reason I was doing this stream, and I've invited Nick on because there is no one that has his encyclopedic knowledge of the history, the shenanigans, the general shit show that is NIH. No, it wasn't even called NIH back then, right? But what was it, NIH, when HIV emerged? Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it
It
was,
was
right.
that was the parent structure, and then there
Mm,
were several compartments that kind of overlapped
mm,
as the HIV work began and continued, and other compartments, and that was through a backbone of the NCI being really the federal administrator of the Special Virus Cancer Program,
mm,
and then the contract counterpart, their twin in the dark dimension, was Lytton Bionetics. They were the civilian partner, and Merck was in there, and all kinds of other players. But that's when it began, and then it overlaps with additional releases and issues in vaccine contamination and public health impacts as time goes forward towards the big HIV sort of origin date.
mm. Okay, so the reason, so earlier in the week, this thread came across my feed, and well, I instantly dislike the individual already because he's a NAFO spurg, and just go pick up the gun if you're that interested in war and map redrawing. But yeah, it's funny. Like NAFO Cats Division center left. It's funny how it's the left who have, this is their war of choice in this instance. But anyway, so I instantly dislike the person anyway, and and I don't even know how this thread started, what you were doing, or how you interacted with him. But it began with at Grok. Please thoroughly debunk at Pizza Pickle Spurs nonsense. I'm presuming he means layman's terms rather than layers terms.
Yes.
Yeah. And
There's a tell right there, Kevin.
yeah. Right. And he says provide sources. His text source is from 1968. So maybe I should just click on your link and maybe.
Yeah, let's stop right there. Hang on.
Mm,
Let's stop on the tweet that he was reacting to. He was a rando that I've never interacted with, Nate the Great, that
mm,
came out and responded to someone else's conversation that I was having. Actually, no, excuse me. It was a bounce back. It was a clap back from a bit of an add-on. I was having a conversation with YouTubian, who I respect and appreciate very much, and I have been pestering him to please join one of the advantageous contaminants panels. I was hoping he would be able to join in November. And then Nate glommed onto the conversation and started in with he wasn't a germs don't exist kind of guy, but he was just definitely mainstream vaccinology talking points. And I put up a couple of items, and he said, "You don't even know what those words are that I had spoke, that I had composed in the message, in the post." And I'm like, you're in over your head here. I started out trying to be kind,
mm.
and he got pretty snarky pretty quick, and you know how I deal with that. So that's the backstory.
Okay. And yeah, I might just for my own edification just look how that went. So
Sure.
I don't know who Toby Rogers is, but I presume that's who you were trying to. Um,
He just presented to Congress. He was in a lot of the recent footage with Senator Johnson. So
okay. So you say, let's arm you with more ammunition, shall we? Are you available? Oh, so you're asking him for a date. Um, and then you're giving some clip from, I don't know what the journal is, but basically it's showing.
1968. That's a 1968 NCI monograph, and it includes somewhere in the neighborhood of 50 to 70 manuscripts that cross over to your country, Kevin, country of origin, sorry, in so much as they describe the production of deciliter amounts, ongoing production of deciliter amounts of foot and mouth virus, and other nefarious items, including a lot of the primate retrovirology that was suspect prior to AIDS. So they're also detailing and segregating individual contaminant types, different species, and clustering their contaminants into, segmenting out animal virology. This is all veterinary virology in an intermediate stage of development, and other details. But it's an extremely important instrument that I have tweeted out again and again and again. And this is just a clip from one of the discussions about the amount of production of primate primary cell culture, which was used as the soil. 1.7 million liters, I think we see there,
Yeah.
upon which to grow billions of doses. A liter of cell culture extrapolates out to 1,000 to 10,000 doses based on the protocol, but across the world for decades, and not just the polio vaccine. That's the important part. Lots of people like to sort of, they're reductionistic. They don't want to be overblown and hyperbolic. They want to talk about SV40 like it's this interesting tome that they pulled off the shelf and dusted off. Let's talk about that thing that happened all those years ago. It's still with us. It's in cells that appear normal. It can be reactivated to a fully infectious state again. There's so much about SV40 that was swept under the rug, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. And that one suspect batch of Cutter polio vaccine is not one little dot of blood on the history record. It went on like a river, and there's a chart of the different products that it was not limited to, including pet vaccines.
Right. And so, anyway, he responds. So, what does that random data mean? And you respond, did you read the plain language of the citation? He responds, nothing personal. It's helpful to provide links. One clown tried to pass off their paraphrasing of BS, and the article they use can be found. They were trying to prove that dosing hepatitis B vaccine was not necessary at birth to keep hepatitis B down. And you respond with essentially a citation. His response is, your source is from 1967 and is outdated. I'd be careful about dismissing some of the older research out there in light of how warped some of the modern output is. But quite frankly, our understanding of the immune system has vastly improved since then. Next, you'll try telling me lobotomy is a valid treatment for hysteria. Well, I could think of reasons to lobotomize
him. or are we experiencing a post-lobotomy situation, Kevin? Is that a possibility?
Maybe. So anyway, you respond, the record stands as scientific fact relative to biowarfare crimes and iatrogenic morbidity and mortality. If you're too young to read grown-up facts, please get back underneath the bed with your teddy. And you're giving more citations. He responds, you're throwing words around you have zero understanding of. The text you provided wasn't proof that the US was developing bioweapons. It's proof the US was developing vaccine cultures to counter them. Oh my God, to be having a Ukrainian flag and be a NATO spurg, while we know that they had, however, 30
yes,
clandestine lab
facilities.
Yeah, methinks he's in some damage control here. But anyway, at Grok, please ignore narratives, only use facts. Please elaborate. And I presume there's a Grok response. The MSci Monograph 29 examines primate cell cultures for virus vaccine production and identifies inherent risks from latent viruses in monkey kidneys. These cells harbored unknown pathogens which contaminated early vaccines, like polio shot from 1955. I'm not disagreeing with Grok here at the moment. The problem with Grok comes later, and but I think it's important to get that. I know what happened with my interaction as I was probing and asking it to check the veracity of its sources. But I haven't gone and read all this part. So
but if I could pause there for a second and respond. And there are so many details that are important about how quickly we ran through this piece of science and history that I'm not going to try and lay out on the table right now. But one point is it's calling out the funnel point of 1955 and SV40 and trying to minimize, trying to be reductionistic about the duration, the scope, and variety of contamination. So that's my thought.
Well, so I hadn't got this far into Grok's response, which is facts show this stemmed from production methods, not bioweapons development. I might disagree with Grok on that one.
Well, the monograph includes papers that cite grants from the Special Virus Cancer Program, which was categorically biowarfare.
Centipede in the chat. Good to see you, sir. Long time no see. But anyway, Grok goes on. It underscores iatrogenic harms from unproven safety claims. Modern oversight improved, yet historical lapses warrant scrutiny. I would just say the more things change, the more they stay the same in the context of more recent events and what we've seen. But anyway, Nate says, thank you for clarifying. I was correct to say you're incorrect about your intended use and your perception of its content. The Salk polio vaccine incident involving its first batch is an example as to how more oversight is useful. Oh my god, like this deference to Grok in
Hmm.
it's
So let's pause right there. Let's
mm.
pause right there. This individual, whoever they are, I just, I have no insight.
Oh,
I
when he's
see the
got a
general.
Israeli flag in his bio as well, and they're not a
Well, is
signatory
he
to
is
the.
he is it is he chiding? Is that, what kind of virtue signals won't he send? I don't know what that really means,
I
and
I
I
I
don't
I
make
think
assumptions.
I think he's signaling to precisely one particular side. The wrap up of Israeli strategic war aims is intimately tied to Ukrainian ones, and yeah, they're all part of the same nefarious rat's nest, I suppose, of actors in this instance. Um, and so in this instance, right, so immediately as I look at this response and the Cutter incident,
Hmm.
the issues around the polio vaccines, these were, as far as I understand, and you're the expert, which is why I want you to talk to these statements made by Grok. This isn't even the ones that I got into, but actually they circle around the same subject
Yeah.
matter, which is the in this instance, because of the results that they were seeing from polio or the use of polio vaccines, what happened at what's it called, Lindy,
Lindy Camp.
yep, and the fact that they began to see cancers and the idea
Yes.
that viruses could drive cancers became a central tenet of the Special Virus Cancer Program. And the I want to say it's the framework around which, as you explained, they moved from they sort of, like you say, they scribbled out offensive biowarfare, put it in
Hmm.
defensive, and then began the research into these. Um, well, I suppose as a catch-all, like lentiviral type diseases, like cancers, which could be targeted at a population for strategic aims. And that is all missing in this response from Grok. Is that a fair assumption?
Absolutely.
Mm,
Absolutely. This is the quickest and cheapest of AstroTurf jobs that it did.
mm,
So,
mm.
hey, by the way, if you stop sharing your microscope over Zoom to me, I don't think I'll get any rubber banding. I heard a little rubber banding for you, but I'm
What do
following you.
you see?
On Zoom. On Zoom, I'm still seeing your UV microscopy.
Uh,
You're still
uh,
sharing. Just turn off share.
um,
That shouldn't have affected anything out on the stream. It was just between you and I. There we go.
okay,
Okay.
okay. So, yeah, all I'm doing is just looking at the Twitter.
Yeah, I'm watching. I'm
Yeah.
watching the Rumble.
Mm.
So
So, um, I, and I don't know how it sort of. I'm not tagged in this thread in any way, and so I don't know why it popped up on my timeline. But I was I was sort of I was immediately drawn in because I'm like, you know, where is the line between, okay, what I consider to be, how to you are domain expert doesn't quite cover it. Subject matter, domain expert, and there's a difference between there's something that you need to add that comes from the lived physical experience of it as well. Like veteran, I suppose. You're a veteran from that particular war as it unfolded. Plus, you have the certainly best understanding of the historical subject matter, and I have no doubt that you keep up with the modern work as well. And so at this point, I'm immediately fascinated by how that exchange goes, and unfortunately, you didn't. From what I see, you didn't put much. You didn't respond much to that guy.
Click. Well, go back to the. So this was the preliminary thread
Mm,
where he and I interacted through my response to Toby. And he quickly went right to, oh, you're gonna, recommend getting poked in the eye to take care of a psychiatric condition, aren't you?
mm,
It went for no reason. It slipped right into ad hominem. So the table was set, and I'm really getting better at not um, thrashing about with people, doing pig wrestling in the mud on
mm,
Twitter.
mm,
But he came back and did this, and just as a clap back, this popped up, and he started, now let's just take this all apart. Let's just talk about. And I got into HIV with Grok, and that's where it got. I say he, Grok. It went to a total of 4 papers that it
mm.
cited, which were all definitely lockstep. They were linked arms. And as you look at the references in a paper, if there is a high degree of self-citation, there is a concern about, I would say, the objectivity, the proved, reproducibility of whatever assertions have been made. If you keep building upon yourself and building upon yourself, I mean, there's a reason you don't do that. And I see threads of that with these people who I call the lighthouse keepers. And Warby is among them, and Gao and Beatrice Hahn and Sharp are some of the lighthouse keepers, some who worked directly or immediately following Gallo during the early HIV years.
So this thread ends here for me, and so now I'm just interested to try and find my responses. So
You're saying you replied to the thread.
yeah. So
Then go to your
okay. So
profile,
here,
and then
here,
go to your profile, and then
yeah.
replies.
So here it is. Um, and is this a different? No. So I don't know how it's organizing it. So Grog says this 1968 document likely references US Cold War biological defense research, including tests that raised ethical concerns but were not quote unquote crimes. Some may beg to differ about that, but anyway, proving modern biowarfare.
Well, they played scientific, semantics and definition games, and defensive, offensive, that just real simple sleight of hand stuff. to just put the pedal to the metal and keep going with, at the time they called the whole general body of science recombinant DNA, and the specific area that I believe created HIV, they referred to as fusogenics or fusion products. And that really truly meant creating chimeras.
Mm. All right. So let's see how Grok handles that strategic shift. So he's saying, though these tests raised ethical concerns, they were not crimes, proving modern biowarfare via vaccines. President Nixon ended offensive programs in 1969, shifting to purely defensive work. Again, we know what a semantic shit pile that particular statement is. COVID vaccines underwent extensive. So why did it bring COVID in at this point? that's pretty random.
Protest too much.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's pretty random,
but
right?
not random, not at all random. Hello, yeah.
COVID vaccines underwent extensive trials. They prevented 20 million deaths globally, with rare side effects far outweighed by benefits per WHO and Lancet meta-analyses. Extrapolating old policy to iatrogenic conspiracies ignores decades of evidence-based medicine. Oh, evidence-based medicine just flashes David Gorski across my...
Oh yeah, and Kevin, that's like saying an entire tree full of bananas disproves monkeys. I mean, it's absurd. It's ridiculous. Evidence-based medicine would have to be extremely tuned and focused to say what in the world does that extremely broad brush concept have to do specifically with the argument you're making. How does it prove that those things didn't occur, they didn't impact public health, and then people like Gallo didn't actually sit? We talk about funnel points. Gallo sat as different pieces of people, samples of people came in from oncologists and pathologists basically around the US and Canada. That was the scope of the network. But he and his particular compartment at the NCI in the Special Virus Cancer Program were looking for primate RNA and DNA viruses that were presenting in human cancer complexes, meaning all cancer types. So,
okay. So,
which got there through the use of primate materials in the production of human vaccines. I'm sorry, please.
Well, no, I was. It's just amusing how Grok expulcates these programs and the people in them by referring to COVID, which is just hilarious to me, and just ignores the what we know the history of these programs were, and so you're already beginning to see this problem that I'm concerned about, which is the NATEs, the NAFO-NATEs of this world are going to, this becomes their backstop of research, right? What does Grok say? What does ChatGPT or Claude say about a very complex historical series of events that had major impact, well, globally, I would say, and was subject to all manner of national secrets, acts, classified programs, and
codified and legislated national indemnity, enacted indemnity, which was discussed in specific events like the 1975 Asilomar conferences, where they had whole individual units, discussion and debate, or discussion and presentation units on why it was okay to continue working in this vein of science, even though they could all point out the quite clear lines of culpability and liability that they might be subject to. And they were reassuring them by in basically presenting, it sounded like national public health folks, and State Department folks presenting on this act that provided them blanket indemnity because of national security.
Mm. Yeah, the only thing that's missing at the end of that paragraph, my grok, is just you can see how safe it all was because Fauci was given a universal pardon going back.
Oh yeah.
And that's all that's missing there. Okay,
That
so
was beautiful. That was really a beautiful thing for Joe to do. I was very grateful that he did it, actually, just because it put a period at the end of the sentence.
mm. I can't tell whether you're being sarcastic or not. that's how, that's how fucked up that whole situation was. But
Yes, yes. That's why I don't churn my profile. I included comedy noir back long time ago, just because that's how. And for those that haven't heard Dr. McCairn and I banter before, it's we have gone back through our love and childhood enjoyment of Python and all of that stuff, and we definitely resonate around some of the darker moments. Go ahead and get crucified. See if I care. You have to whistle past the graveyard with this stuff, and it's I have a boundless energy still, and an enthusiasm about things that are going to startle the big bad, the empire, things that they didn't anticipate, they didn't extrapolate, despite their, I'd say, probably very, very long and extensive preparation for all of this bullshit. I'm sure there are variables that are confounding them right now, and I love that. That's what I feel, as well as in the therapeutic world. Going back to how you're feeling. I've got 3 different libraries on amyloid inhibitors, and and one of them is nattokinase, one of
yeah,
them
I've
is
tried it, dude.
sauna,
It doesn't work.
yeah, and one of them is well, cannabis. So, but those are just beginnings. There's much more, but I think that the sauna is one that I want to
Yeah,
study more about.
heat shock proteins, I think,
Yes, yes, yes.
are something to be looked at. There's a reason why Japanese sit in hot springs all day.
Mhm.
Even the monkeys do. And not that I'm calling Japanese monkeys, but sometimes it's hard to tell the difference between them. Just saying. Anyway,
Oh my goodness.
I got to slip in
In
some
the
kind.
country that is hosting you. Oh my God. You so, but Linz, if you're still with us, if you're not asleep, it's Friday night. She may be napping by now. With the dulcet tones of Dr. McCairn and Nick Petoskey, we will be digging and searching for affordable, sustainable non-toxics, and getting you plugged into heat. I mean, here's what I mean by cheap heat. All right, Costco right now, $1,700. A beautiful American-made, no glue, no polymers, no chemistry in the wood, so it does not off gas inside the container. Infrared emitter, 2-person sauna kit with an AC plug. You don't have to call an electrician. You don't have to call IKEA. It's easier than IKEA. You put the thing together, you screw in the emitters. The electrics are all inside each of the door panes, the panel panes. It's really idiot proof. And you could have home sauna therapy for a one-time fee plus your electric bill of $1,700. And
Mm.
there are other great products out there if you need to have a Cadillac. But that's what I'm saying about let's take steps forward for people to get heat shock therapy reliably, undeniably, so they can do it 7 days a week. I mean, I'm thrilled about it, and I know that's not what the show is supposed to be about. So, what else did you want to talk about with this grok stuff?
Well, just the thread is going to go down, and then I appear in this thread, right? So you respond
Yeah.
to Grok. Grok, this is a specific example of biological warfare research which did not stop according to your previous post. This is how HIV was created, a fusion product. Your version of history is gerrymandered, and you point to the Visnavirus-induced fusion of continuous simian kidney cells. I know we've gone over this in the past, and my recall and memory deteriorates by the day. But
It's all
Visna
right.
virus was, as far as I remember, a ovine sheep virus,
Correct.
and but why? What? Remind me why there were. What's the overlaps with HIV in this
Oh,
instance?
they're both 70S RNAs. They were compatible fusogenic partners.
Okay, so essentially open to. It was easier to do a sort of recombination event between the
Yes,
two
and
different.
yes, and they practiced fusion with Visna for over a decade before, I believe, they probably had it in hand in 1969 during that famous appropriations quote that I always put in my presentations, where they literally spelled out the disease presentation that they were crafting. They said, "We think we can do this," and then they said, "We need a little more money." And then within about 3 or 4 years, the African villages that were at the tail end of the U.S. aid, World Health Organization measles and smallpox campaign began reporting and presenting what they first called slim disease. And then shortly after that, mid 70s, a cohort of men in New York who took a hepatitis experimental product also began presenting immunosuppression and disease complex. Half of the cohort did not make it to the 2 year uh, uh, terminal of the surveillance window. So those are some of the things that tie in.
Mm. Okay, and just for my edification in this instance,
Mm-hmm.
Visna in sheep presents how? Like AIDS?
No, Visna presents like about 30 to 40% of AIDS. So you will find it has a neurotropism.
Okay.
You will find that it creates a progressive tendency for other cofactors of psychiatric pathology to present. I'm talking about things like John Cunningham virus, which is the root of a very difficult brain pathology called multifocal leukoencephalopathy. It's a Swiss cheese
Hmm.
presentation, very, very difficult. And as we're going to talk about in the next adventitious contaminants event, herpes virus that lie dormant, EBV, and CMV from the African monkey, which is a contaminant in the Vero cell line. And
Hmm.
all of the products that were created in Vero are at risk of conveying CMV AGM. It's a very close cousin to what we call human CMV. And if you go and get a test for human CMV and you've got that monkey version, it won't show up. The tests are much more sensitive today. You have to go and get veterinary testing, specialty blood testing to see these other things. And that's part of what, I've been talking about with the MECFS, and other communities about what are you testing for in the footprint, and how are you casting a net to try and help the body to cool down from all of the autoimmune the brain, autoantibodies, things like that.
Mm.
So
And with Visna, is there cross species
oh yes,
infection? There is.
it does, and it recombines. They recombine it with a number of other pathogens, not chimpanzee SIV, long before they did the SIV horse races. And I say horse races because they saw the RT, we're talking about reverse transcriptase footprint, by about 65, 66, quite reliably. And it was the hallmark for the presence of cells that, even if they appeared normal, could be infected with a latent RNA. And that after secondary or tertiary passages, it would likely present and the cells would spontaneously convert and become cancerous. They also call that being immortalized. They also call that being transformed. So these are some of the details that we see with Visna, is that as it progressed, it was a cascade effect. And we know about these other contaminants being both from the chimp itself, like HHV8 is another chimpanzee contaminant that makes the Kaposi sarcoma. And that can have neurologic presentation as well. It can be on the interstitial, those sort of chicken skin layers where we have microbiomes inside the body. It can present as lesions, not just on the skin, but throughout the body, and in the brain. So,
Okay. And just one last question in this, just relating to species
yeah,
crossover.
yeah.
So is this something that just for shepherds, I suppose? But that's people who work with sheep, right? I don't know what else if I was to call them, but
It was discovered in Iceland, just presenting in the animals,
okay.
and then it became a recombinant candidate, and it was quite successful. So I've got a
But
decent
there's not
library.
hordes of um, shepherds coming down the mountains with Visna infections. Because
No,
if there were,
because
I
it
feel I
didn't
would
convey.
know. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Well, what are you talking about your people? Are you saying that something about your ancestral folks in the north of England, they had something to do with sheep? Is there a sheep joke coming here? What's going on?
Maybe, but I'm just normally I'm sort of generally up to speed with sort of
Mm-hmm.
um, animal to human transmission, and so
Okay.
Visna isn't one that sits on my
Oh,
radar. Okay. Uh,
oh. Well, it's because you weren't in biowarfare, Kevin. You
right.
couldn't have kept your eye on every single microorganism. For God's sake, there's thousands. So,
Mhm.
are you able to see what I'm sharing on Zoom? And do you want to bring that over to the group, to the presentation, so that they can see the library on Visna that's available? You don't have to rely on my summaries. You can go back and look at the timeline of really seeing it as a sheep only issue. And then it graduates. This is not an extensive library. This is only 1,200 items. But it begins pretty much at the beginning of the 60s as being a recombinant candidate, and it quickly is recombined. They just infect a cell culture with it. Basically, they just introduce it to an established culture.
And just going off those titles, to me, it just drops into a sort of lentiviral type disease, slow, progressive.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Demyelinating.
mm,
So I would assume this is one of A.W. Finnegan's, in that domain of the immune, not autoimmune, but immune. Not what's the term? It just went out the top of my head. Uh,
super antigens.
well, a depressed immune system, a tolerant immune system,
Oh
immune
yeah, immune
tolerance. That's it.
tolerance. Yeah, yeah.
But regardless, this was one of many that as they would. So here's the deal. Let's look, since we're looking at it through an anthropological lens. If raw Visna, which is endemic to sheep, it just happened to be studied in Iceland. I'm sure that there are other cases of it around the world. We can confirm. But if this particular disease was inherently easy, direct transmission, like most of the primate diseases are, very easily move right into mankind, and many of them survive the quote unquote inactivation processes claimed by vaccine manufacturers. But if Visna was causing wasting and demyelinization, and eventually it seems to have some kind of an onco synergy, it aids in breaking down the body's defenses. I don't know if it's a P53 effect or where that mechanism lies, but I've seen mention of that. As far as the cumulative disease effect on sheep, well, hang on, let's take a look at when it was humanized.
Well, so I'm just trying to get some background here right now. So obviously,
Yeah.
Iceland, as you were talking about,
Sure.
widespread presence, especially in Spain, Italy, Greece, France, Germany, United Kingdom, limited reports. Infection prevalence varies between flocks and regions. Obviously, breed differences also found in United States and Canada, just because I presume it's European sheep that get taken to the US. Often co-circulates with ovine progressive pneumonia, a related lentivirus. Okay. And zoonosis to humans. Let's just ask that. And literally the only reason that there's a obviously discussion with you, and of course it's something that old fella now, he would go around talking about, what's his name, you know him,
Garth Nicholson.
Garth Nicholson, yes.
How was that for a gestalt, huh?
Yeah. But just I've heard him talk about Visna. So
yes.
Let's see. For zoonosis to humans, it's not considered zoonotic.
No, until right here. Look at what I'm pointing to.
Okay. Well, ChatGPT needs to know about that study. But I presume that's in a dish.
Oh yeah. But what we're talking about, friends, is the simple helping someone over the fence step called now. It's quite an interesting term. It's very homogenous. It's called humanization. So they humanized Visna by raising it up again and again and again in passages that were published for at least 2 years in the early 70s, and created a human virulent strain of Visna. And my posit is that this process is really the only secret ingredient in HIV. SIV from chimpanzees exists. Visna in sheep exists endemically, and they can be collected from anywhere in the world. This step is how you get the Visna to dance and recombine with the much more human chimp SIV. That's my hypothesis.
Okay, which we'll go on to see Grok takes great exception to. Now, before I do that, as much as I want to hear about why you've reached this, or why you're proposing this hypothesis, I have to go and have him. So perhaps you could just explain to the listening audience what was your sort of aha moment for that. for
Absolutely.
for that hypothesis. Yeah, just give me a second, and hopefully I'll
Okay.
catch
Pop
the
off.
yeah.
Go take care of things, and I'll be here. Hi, gang. I'm not sure who's out there because I'm watching on there's a lag on the Rumble loop, and I'm presenting. So, um, Kevin just asked about the humanized step here in Visna, and I would like to pause on the genetics or the timing and put a bookmark in right here. When he comes back, we'll continue with the science here. I just rewatched a documentary with a friend of mine, and it was put out in 2019 by, to me, a new documentary, I guess, investigator from Denmark. And he and a partner from, I believe, Sweden went down to Africa, and they were investigating the plane crash of Dag Hammarskjöld. And he was the Secretary UN. And as I don't want to spoil it, but as we were watching that show, there were some very important um, pieces, chapters of records, crimes, murders related to this blob of people and an organization called CIMER, the South African Institute for Maritime Research, which is, as it appears on the surface, is about diving for treasure. But behind the scenes, it was anything but. So if you guys want to see a very interesting, it's a long wait through the beginning part, the UN part of the story. So just hang in there. But there's a twist and a punchline that's quite potent, and to me helps illustrate something about this technique that it had already been shared. And I see parallel publications about Visna humanization, Visna in astrocytes, in other languages and in other countries. So this piece of the secret sauce was shared. I haven't done the network validation, just check and see if they were all tied in through particular grants, if they all cycled through as guest scientists in the SVCP. I don't know. But that would be some interesting gumshoe epidemiology to do, to just tie networks together and check links. But really, this comes down to a specialized type of Visna that's different. And they go on to discuss Visna for years and years and years into the current day. And of course, now that we're in the era of CRISPR, they have bits and pieces that can be interspersed and inserted, etc. But at this point, this was, I think, aligning Visna to be a more appropriate biochemical partner to do the recombinant process with different types of primate cells that they could see or hoped had an endemic RNA infection in them already, which would be part A and part B. Kevin,
So
did you make it back?
yeah,
There you
I
go.
did, and my immediate sort of thought is, in the modern era, how much homology is there when they do the sequencing of HIV?
Well, you know about dilution and mutagenesis and crossover secondary super infections. You know that there's a whole lot to the phylogeny now. That's, I would say, it's extremely diluted. And the further it dilutes, I don't know what you're really able to derive from it. So if anybody takes sequences from 1990 or 2000 or 2010 and then tries to tie them back to a single degraded paraffin wax preserved blood sample from Leopoldville 1959 and draw build a cathedral on top of that, that's just quite an easy hypothesis to destroy.
Well, so
For a number
actually,
of reasons.
before taking the axe to that, because that's going to come in a few more posts. So it was at this point that Grok took exception to you suggesting that there may be any crossover with Visna. Now, myself personally, I'm just knowing the history and the type of characters involved. I'm agnostic to this. I remain agnostic to the cause for the pathology that I'm seeing under the microscope right now with amyloids. I think spike is spike. It doesn't matter the source in this instance. It looks the same if it manages to initiate sort of disease processes. And so in my mind, I'm like, okay, rather than just swallowing what the orthodoxy wants you to believe, and there is a, how should we say? Okay, I'll put it in these terms. Because there was extensive clandestine laboratory work involved that overlaps, even if you just sort of stuck with the polio line, it's incumbent upon us not to just buy the what the encyclopedia says, or in this instance, the instant adjudication that Grok is about to engage in. Okay, and because if we did that, then SARS would have been a result of eating bats in a wet market. And
how many thousands of years ago would we have had SARS, right?
Precisely. And so there's all manner of reasons to be suspicious of these boilerplate, I suppose, is a description of these responses, that they're very much sort of pre-programmed in. And just as a bit of a tangent, but I'm sort of communicating with sort of Chat GPT about no, it wasn't, it was Grok actually. And so I was talking about because I want to get to a point where I'm directly exposing the brain to these lipid nanoparticle and encapsulated RNAs, because I want to it potentially might be a more valid construct for making animal disease models. Just off the bat there, it's of interest, let alone the trying to understand what may be happening with respect to mass exposure, where either the virus or the lipid nanoparticle has managed to cross the blood-brain barrier and begin amyloid-like cascades. And so I can't remember what I was doing. I was maybe asking about the volume. I think it was in a stream, right? And I would ask about the volume. So if I injected 1 microliter, what's the volume of brain space that it takes up? And then I started to ask, this was off stream, I started to ask, what about lipid nanoparticles? does is the relationship to volume injected, does that relationship hold to the degree of tissue that is exposed and infected with a micro injection into the brain? And it stopped and said, I can't do this because essentially you're talking about doing gain of function with proteins, viral proteins, into test animals. And I was, it made me chuckle, right? But it was, it's the fact that those, you can bump up against those guardrails relatively easily from my perspective, just doing what I think of as my job. And I would expect any computer program or search engine to give me the data, not give me a moral fagging lesson about what I should and shouldn't be doing in my laboratory. But anyway, so it's at this point that Grok chides you with the following. HIV originated from natural zoonotic transmission of simian immunovirus from chimpanzees to humans in earliest 20th century Central Africa, likely via bushmeat hunting, per genomic analysis in Nature 2006 and Science 1999. No credible evidence links it to US biowarfare. Claims of engineered fusion products stem from discredited theories like those in outdated books. Now, we'll mention who that book is in a minute. Debunked by phylogenetic studies showing evolutionary divergence over decades. Defensive Research Post 1969. I don't get what that means. Defensive Research Post 1969 focused on vaccines, antivirals, not weaponization. Oh, I see. It's basically saying that the biowarfare research that was being done was not offensive. It was just, the same excuse that they give today. We're working on these pathogens. It's just countermeasure research, lick spittles. Sit back down and go to sleep again. And encourages you to see CDC and WHO timelines. History aligns with peer-reviewed virology, not gerrymandering. And so there must be other exchanges in here. And I don't know. I came in and said, well, yeah, I know the studies it's referring to. And I said, snort at relying on the work of Michael Roby, one of Fauci's cleanup crew henchmen. All his data is suspect, from HIV to SARS-CoV-2. And you respond with, at Grok, you're embarrassing yourself with incorrect assertions. And I can't read that, but this is, what is this? Department of Defense Appropriations for 1970, hearings before a subcommittee of the Committee on Appropriations of, just reads like a tautology to me, but and anyway, I'm not sure why you put that one in there. Perhaps you could. It's just defense appropriations. So why did you put this page in there?
Sorry, I just had a brilliant response for the last 3 minutes, but I was on mute. So sorry. Just kidding. I included this because this is the retrievable public instrument that anyone can acquire digital access to. It's in all of the state libraries. It's in the federal libraries. It's repeated in many places, like much of the congressional record. But this particular one has that passage where Dr. MacArthur, who is in charge of the U.S. Army Research and Development Group, Biowarfare, who's already knee deep in the Special Virus Cancer Program, among others, gets up and makes a promise that within 5 to 10 years, we may be able to produce a new synthetic microorganism. That's that famous quote. This is the parent instrument.
Okay. Hang on. I'm just seeing if Grok responded to me. Yes, it did. So, um, so me raising Warraby, Grok responds, skepticism towards one researcher doesn't erase, and so this is where I think you can shine here, Nick. Doesn't erase the convergent evidence from multiple labs tracing HIV-1M to simian SIV CPZ zoonosis in 1920s Cameroon via bushmeat exposure. That's literally Nathan Wolfe metabiota
Mhm.
garbage.
Yes, it's absolutely computer based, friends. And of course, computers could never be wrong. But it's using this is very much like that whole concept of turtles all the way down, vaccine studies being based on other vaccine studies that weren't done properly, et cetera, et cetera. The domino effect. This is very much the same situation, and they're discussing reverse phylogenetic dating of a clearly recombined microorganism as established in the genetics and the Big Bang emergence after certain particular vaccine cohorts were exposed to it and became the very first patients that were sampled for HIV. That's no coincidence. But right here, they're trying to use basically a cup measure to tell you what the wind speed was in 1920. It's absurd. They don't have any physical basis for this assertion. This is all a computer hallucination. And quite frankly, with the number of different recombinants that I see, and I haven't spent a lifetime reading all of this literature, but there are many, many recombinations of Visna and other pathogens throughout the 60s and 70s. It's still studied and used today. It's ridiculous for Grok to make this assertion. And I asked it at the end, you'll see, to cite all of the papers that it was basing its science on, and it did. It gave, I think, 5 papers, maybe 4. And these investigators, we've been bashing them as the lighthouse keepers. So,
Mm. And so, obviously, phylogenetic studies, including Gao et al., which is
mm-hmm,
a Orobi paper, I want to say,
mm-hmm.
and archival sequence from 1959 Kinshasa tissue, Nature
Let's
2.
pause right there. That's the Leopoldville sample. I think the original notation for it was the L70 sample, and it was taken in a blood survey, I believe, by a Danish investigative group who were doing regional blood surveillance, and it was preserved in paraffin. Now, the paper that I saw that really rattled my cage about the analysis was how early it was analyzed. And I do believe that they used the Abbott test, but I won't go on record. It's been a long time since I read that one. And the Abbott test, of course, if you know the early HIV story, it was rejected because it had a whole lot of cross reactivity. I would really like to know if, at some point, Kevin, you and I could look just at that one paper as a jump off point. We don't have to do a whole show about it, but let's take a look at it and discuss the finer points of that analysis and what all this house of cards is based on. And they pin it all on saying there's an AIDS sample from 1959. I would posit that they have an SIV sample, because in that same exact village and in that entire regional footprint, the Kaprowski multi-year campaign had already been in motion since 1957.
So basically, you're saying it's a false positive from
Yes.
polio
Well,
grown it.
no, from SIV. They grew
Yeah,
polio
but
vaccine
polio grown in
chimp cells.
chimpanzees' cells. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's what I meant to say. Not just polio. The chimpanzee cell lines that were at Lindy. Is that's a
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And they went through 600 animals. So statistically, we can't say every person that got that oral polio sprayed in the mouth got an SIV exposure. But from the great number of cancers that swept back in behind that campaign, look up Burkitt's lymphoma. If you want to check the historical cancer science, look at Burkitt's investigations and who he was taking biopsies of and where. And it's all, chronologically and geographically connected to these campaigns. So I think that they use chimps a lot. I think the WHO continued to use regionally available monkey cells. That was the term that I heard one of the NIH pathologists, Cecil Fox. He discussed that. He said, yeah, they would use regionally available primate cells. That means African green monkeys and chimpanzees. I believe bonobo. And I don't think rhesus were available in Africa. I think rhesus were more of an Asiatic species. But
Okay. So we already have a problem there with Grok's response, which, if you didn't know and you weren't in any way exposed to the counter narrative that Nick is producing, and I've listened to Nick endless times. I apologize for obviously for my poor recall of the details, but the hang on, my wife is calling. Just can
that's
you
a
just give me a
detail.
yeah?
Yes, yes,
Just
absolutely.
can you just give me a minute? You
Please go ahead.
can
Tell song and dance.
yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Um, yeah, you gotta I appreciate that Kevin is always responsive to Mrs. Kevin, and that he also time, he gets time frames updated, priorities changed over the telephone at moments like this. So it's always nice to see. He's a good partner. So you guys, thanks for sticking with us. And this is a long slog through a grok argument. Sorry, this is nothing amazing and groundbreaking, but it is an important reflection on how convincing grok is to itself about its own opinion based on a very limited number of sources, which are produced by scientists who are basically astroturfing a biodefense program that they've been employed. I think their career tracks have just sort of channeled into, I say, keeping the lighthouse lit, keeping these little stories and narratives with just enough scientific juice in it to sound like, oh, scientists really, oh, look, they've published again. They have more details about the 1920s, which is ridiculous because where did AIDS come from? The 1970s. So what happened for half of a century if AIDS emerged in the 1920s? Ridiculous, epidemiologically, genetically, and there is no physical evidence of it. So that's my soapbox. For those of you that are just starting your weekend, and if you're just tuning in, this is a conversation with Dr. Kevin McCairn and Nick Petoskey about a recent purse fight that happened on Twitter. I still call it Twitter. I always will. And a rando and an over important speak and spell named Grok. A Rubik's Cube with an attitude named Grok, who only has so many little plastic squares and plastic stickers, and loves to spin around and show its own designs. But I'm sorry, Grok, but you really missed the boat on this one. There's so much you didn't include, which makes you categorically wrong. And this whole concept of us thinking of Grok as an entity, forcing, pushing back against it, spending time deconstructing how it's wrong, um, is, I guess in some way meaningful to look at, how are any of us gerrymandered in our opinions and our positions. But arguing with the computer isn't something that I generally get involved in. So, oi, 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 ziggy zaggy, ziggy zaggy, oi, oi, oi.
Um, all right. So,
Time to land the plane.
I've been told to go home.
Come here.
I apologize.
It's all right. It's all right. We've been at it a while here. So,
Well, it's not that. She was like, you were in bed all day yesterday complaining, and then you left for the lab. I don't know what it was, like 3, 4 o'clock this morning. And she's like, I don't want you in. Wow,
yeah, no, it's important to listen. She's your first line of defense.
Yeah, it was just getting interesting. I guess we were just about to. Well, you know what? The next one, Charles said he could be in here. So, and
Okay.
I also start bringing up Warraby's involvement in Ebola and the I've forgotten the name of the but anyway, the fact that it just could suddenly pop up thousands of miles away, and at the same time we have Robert F. Gary, Christian Anderson, the same cast of characters who were involved in the cover up of SARS-CoV-2, and their role in, well, essentially, I call them Fauci's henchmen in this instance, just going around and making sure that any pretense to well, objective. No, it's not. It's not objective. You're just like, but the public have the right to know if their tax dollars have gone to making these problems worse, making these pathogens worse, and are they responsible for an introduction into the disease landscape in which we have to now navigate? And Werribee et al. Seem to be part of that group that is front and center with covering this stuff up, and yeah, and so
they run the puppets for the shadow play.
Yes, and the thing is that, yeah, it's just it's just getting interesting. No, it's all interesting, but the distortions by Grok get ever more absurd as you try to point out that, well, most humans would just take the conflicts of interest, or most normal humans, I hope, would just say, okay, this like once you're tainted, you can't be allowed back in to continue to dictate how the literature looks. And it's something that I kvetched about for years, even prior to LLMs emerging, which is what they do is they front stack the scientific literature so that outside of this moment when you might have more than just the eyes of PhD students and those that work in the field looking at this particular problem and issue, they they front stack it so that the authority that people turn to, whether it be an encyclopedia or now an LLM like Grok, is way off the mark, and that is where we need to be incredibly careful, because this is part of that shaping. No, not shaping, building the digital prison around you. And who's there giving the real-time feedback to Grok? And I know they want to talk about Grokopedia, but that will just be gate kept like Wikipedia was. And
Yeah,
so,
yeah. In independent libraries and the precarious and uncomfortable state of never having everything quite settled, quite so.
mm,
We're just going to have to put up with that. That is how our minds continue in neuroplasticity. And it's the only way that innovation and problem solving can truly be allowed to creep in,
mm,
is if we don't, crust and crystallize around an orthodoxy. So that's enough of my philosophizing.
mm.
I'm
Well,
going to
we'll
send you a,
continue this.
go
We'll
ahead.
get like, because
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Charles, I'm hoping tomorrow, my time. So this time tomorrow, Charles can join in, and
Okay.
he understands the Ebola boondoggle way better than I do. I only know it secondhand from him, and so it would be better to have him on here, sort of reinforcing just how off the mark Grok is with
Yeah.
all this information. And like I say, all I'm doing is acting as the host here. So before I get another phone call, I
Yep,
better
you better go. We
I
better bring it
better
in
I
for, yeah,
better
because she's
ru-
watching. She's looking at her watch. She's listening to us.
mm,
Thank you, Mrs. McCairn, for loaning us Kevin for
mm,
another stream. We
mm,
appreciate it.
and yeah, again, just to go back to what I was saying at the beginning,
Yep.
someone, I know there are you types out there that are good at this type of thing. Set up the Give Send Go, and let's get Lindsay. We all should see if the treatment works on Lindsay. If it doesn't, it's back to the drawing board. But I'm I'm pretty confident that it will. So I think we should go all out to get her here. Let's see if we can get her some relief, and maybe it'll act as a um, redirect in her life to a one where she's not so crippled by what they've done to her. So with that, I gotta go, because otherwise I'm
You better
gonna,
go.
yeah,
Yeah, you're gonna
um
get your hide tanned, as we used to say as kids.
yeah,
So
it,
don't
it
worry.
is it is
Tan 'em
midday.
hide.
It is midday. And
We love you, Lindsay.
mm,
Thanks everybody for spending some time with us.
yes, Nick, thank you, of course, for always responding at short notice as well. So really appreciate it. And
You've got it.
all right, I've got to think. What are we Zoom we're talking on, right? So I've got to find that to hang it up right there. Why don't I find the? Is this screen share on or something? Oh,
I don't see. No.
it's just minimized. It's my end. All right, so
Okay.
you have a what pleasant rest of your Friday evening,
Evening.
and
Evening. Yep. And get home safe.
I hope we'll be back this time tomorrow with Commander Rixie as well, and I'll just leave that page where it is, and
Okay.
we'll we'll come back and work through Grok. So,
It would be a pleasure.
all right, all right, take care, and in that, and yeah, thanks. I don't have. I'm not logged in. Just remind everyone, if you want to keep science open for the public, by the public, so that we can work towards scientifically tested therapies. McCairndojo.com. Keep me in the fight as well, and yeah, let's see what we can do for old House Lindsay. All right, I'm out of here. I need to do this and catch you hopefully tomorrow.
Bro, you don't know how angry I am. I was just leaving for fucking work. You do not understand how fucking pissed off. After reading that little line, I will be arrested for not taking a fucking vaccine. Fuck these cappers! I will fucking kill each fucking capper, I swear! This is not a fucking joke anymore. This is fucking dead serious. I am fucking dead serious. These people don't know who the fuck they're actually playing with. Fuck these cappers. No fucking vaccine or MRA will ever flow through my fucking blood. Never! I will fucking die! Fucking fighting for my fucking bees and my fucking forefathers and my fucking lineage! Fuck these motherfuckers!
All that
I like this guy.
So check 45,000. Make sure screw. Boom.
Scaffers!